He's informed the necessary Bucks officials that he believes the time has come now for both of these sides.
The internet is absolutely melting down right now. A bombshell report just hit the wire claiming the Miami Heat aren't just hunting big game, they are trying to empty the entire safari, targeting both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant, all while refusing to touch their own core stars. Let me ask you this point blank. Looking at the chaos in that locker room, how confident are you that he is still wearing a Bucks jersey when the buzzer sounds on Game 82? I honestly don't know. And that is the terrifying part. Fans are in total shock, staring at their screens and asking the same question. How on earth does Miami possess the leverage to pull off a heist of this magnitude? We need to dissect this immediately because the audacity here is off the charts. The Miami Heat have somehow positioned themselves as the puppet masters in two separate franchise-altering trade wars at the exact same time. On one side, you have a two-time MVP looking for an escape hatch. On the other, a two-time All-Star guard trapped in a rebuild. The smoke signals are undeniable. Both superstars want out. And report after report suggests Miami is trying to land Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant without sacrificing Bam Adebayo or Norman Powell. Think about the gravity of this. Giannis has given 13 years of blood, sweat, and loyalty to the city of Milwaukee. He carried that city on his back, delivering their first championship in 50 years back in 2021. But look at him now, trapped on a sinking ship, 9 games under 500, suffocating in the 12th seed of the East. The writing is on the wall. The Bucks have absolutely zero path to redemption. They are capped out, locked up, and cannot save this team through free agency. They are paralyzed. They cannot make the moves necessary to turn this roster back into a contender. And Ernie, to put it bluntly, the silence has been broken. Sources say he has informed the highest-ranking Bucks officials that the dream is dead. He believes the clock has run out, and it is time for both sides, him and the franchise he built, to finally walk away after 13 seasons. After he dragged this team, this entire organization, to the mountaintop for that historic title run, ending a half-century drought in 2021, the Bucks scrambled to keep the window open. They waived and stretched Damian Lillard's massive contract. They brought in Miles Turner. They gave Giannis one final desperation shot to build a legacy in Milwaukee, but it crashed and burned. The experiment failed. The team is dead in the water. Giannis is not interested in a gap year. He refuses to waste his prime waiting for a miracle. He wants to hunt for that second ring, and he wants to do it right now. Meanwhile, Ja Morant is staring down the barrel of a completely different nightmare in Memphis. The Grizzlies have pulled the plug and committed to a scorched earth rebuild, trading away Jaren Jackson Jr. They shipped him to the Utah Jazz in a move that sent shockwaves through the league, a clear signal that Memphis is tearing the house down to the studs. But here is the twist. Morant is still under contract for 2 more years after this season. The Grizzlies hold the keys. They control his destiny. They can keep him hostage, or they can set him free for a price. The power lies in Memphis, not with Morant. But let's be real. Shaq the Grizzlies have hung a massive open for business sign around Ja Morant's neck. The Sharks are circling. There are multiple teams calling, sniffing around, ready to strike. Morant has made it crystal clear he wants to take his talents to the Heat or the Timberwolves. But here is the cold hard truth. Memphis does not give a damn about his preferences. The Grizzlies will ship him to Siberia if the offer is right. His feelings rank way below draft assets and young talent. And this is where the Heat have crashed the party on both fronts. They have identified Giannis as the crown jewel, the primary target. Morant, he is the luxury backup plan. If Pat Riley cannot land the Greek Freak, he pivots instantly to the explosive point guard. But the rumors are getting louder. Miami doesn't want to choose. They want it all. Both of them. The entire Heat strategy hinges on a greedy gamble, keeping Adebayo and Powell as untouchable core pieces. Remember, Adebayo is carrying a $52 million price tag next season. And Powell, he is scorching the Nets, averaging between 21.8 and 24 points per game this year. He is playing like a borderline all-star. Miami views these two as non-negotiable. They are essential for immediate contention alongside whoever walks through that door. Trading them defeats the whole purpose of building a super team. So, the Heat have to get creative. The proposed packages are built entirely around expiring money and young blood. For Giannis, Miami is pushing a package of Tyler Herro, Terry Rozier, Kel'el Ware, Nikola Jovic, and a war chest of first-round picks. We are talking draft capital in 2029, a swap in 2030, and another pick in 2031. Some whispers suggest they might even throw in Jaime Jaquez Jr. or Simone Fontecchio just to make the salaries legal. One wild mock trade even suggests the Heat could absorb Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis in a massive blockbuster expansion. Now, when you look at the offer for Morant, the package is significantly lighter. Miami is dangling the expiring contracts of Rozier and Fontecchio with barely any draft assets attached, and the word on the street is that the market for Morant has hit rock bottom. His off-court controversies and a down statistical season have cooled the league's interest significantly, and that plays right into Miami's hands. If the bidding war is silent, the Heat can steal him for pennies on the dollar. But the million-dollar question remains, can they actually pull off a double heist without moving Adebayo or Powell? Let's go deeper into the rabbit hole. The Giannis pursuit is the main event. Giannis Antetokounmpo is hands down the most coveted asset in the entire NBA right now. Every contender is desperate for him. Every rebuilding team is salivating over the haul he would bring back. But the Bucks hold all the cards here because Giannis still has a year and a half left on his deal that guarantees 2 full playoff runs for whoever trades for him. That creates massive leverage for Milwaukee. The entire market is frozen. Teams are terrified to move a muscle until they see what happens with you, Giannis. So, how do you handle that kind of pressure? Yeah, look, I can't control that noise. I can't control what other franchises are plotting, man. I just try to lock in on my job, which is to go out there, compete, and try to win basketball games. The entire league is holding its breath, waiting for Milwaukee to blink. General managers have paused their own negotiations. They are desperate to know if Giannis is truly hitting the block. They need to know the price tag. They want to be ready to pounce the second that first domino falls. So I'll ask you again, how confident are you that you will finish this season wearing a Bucks uniform? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just taking this day by agonizing day. Boom. Just like that, the earth shakes. Those 5 simple words, they aren't just a statement, they are an avalanche waiting to bury a franchise. Giannis can no longer look the fans in the eye and promise he's finishing this season in Milwaukee. He can't guarantee a single thing. And that terrifying uncertainty, it is infecting every backroom deal, every hushed phone call, and every desperate gamble happening right now across the entire NBA. The Milwaukee Bucks are in crisis mode, narrowing their crosshairs to a high-stakes standoff with 2 predators, the Miami Heat and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Look at the Vegas boards. Miami is surging. The odds are skyrocketing. The Heat haven't just entered the chat, they have kicked down the door as the legitimate heavyweights coming for the 2-time MVP. Sure, the critics are screaming that Miami doesn't have the assets, that their war chest is empty, but whispers from the inner circle say Giannis has already made his choice. He is looking at South Beach, and he likes what he sees. The city isn't just calling him, it is seducing him. The bright lights of a massive market, that pulls him in. But it's the blood, sweat, and tears of that championship pedigree that really hooks him. Heat culture isn't a myth. It's a reputation forged in fire. You go to Miami to get broken down and built back up into a weapon. They push you, they evolve you, they give you a shot at the ring. Giannis sees that machinery and he wants to be the engine. But wanting it and getting it are 2 different wars. Milwaukee isn't just going to hand over the keys to the kingdom, they are demanding a king's ransom in draft capital. Insiders are reporting that the Bucks have already thrown counterpunches at Miami, drawing a line in the sand. Show us the picks or hang up the phone. Miami is dangling young stars. But the Bucks don't want potential. They want the mortgage. They want first-rounders that convey in the distant future of 2030 and 2032. They are demanding swap rights in 2026, 2029, and 2031. They want to burn it all down and rebuild from the ashes properly, not just fill roster spots with warm bodies. It is a chaotic 3-way dance. Miami, Minnesota, they are scrambling to put the puzzle together. Miami has an offer on the table, a trigger they could pull right now. But wait, there is a shadow lurking in the West. I look at Golden State and I see the ultimate threat. Their package, it is lethal because those unprotected picks are gold. The Golden State Warriors are looming like a storm cloud over these negotiations, emerging as the primary antagonist in Miami's story. The Warriors can offer unprotected picks from the post-Steph Curry era. Think about that. Those picks are valuable because when Curry walks away, Golden State projects to fall off a cliff. Compare that to Miami. The Heat don't rebuild, they reload. Their picks are always going to be late in the first round because that franchise refuses to lose. And in this game, late picks are garbage. The analysts at ESPN are shouting that while Miami might lack the raw asset firepower, they hold the ace up their sleeve. Giannis himself pushing for South Beach. Never underestimate the power of a superstar with a grudge. Player preference is the nuclear weapon in these situations. Milwaukee can demand the moon and stars, but they have to look at the map. They have to consider where their franchise cornerstone actually wants to land. Because if Giannis refuses to sign the extension, if he won't commit long-term, that destination's offer crashes to zero. No team is trading the farm for a rental. They need guarantees. They need to know the MVP is locked in. In this timeline, it is creating a pressure cooker that is about to explode on all sides. Brian Windhorst just laid out the stakes, and they are terrifying. Midnight isn't just a time on the clock, it is the cliff's edge. It serves as the unofficial deadline before the real deadline destroys the deal. Complex trades like this, they bleed time. You have armies of lawyers reviewing contracts. You have the CBA salary matching calculations that have to be perfect down to the dollar. You have third teams getting dragged into the mess. All of that burns precious hours. If Milwaukee doesn't have the framework locked and loaded by midnight, this trade dies on the vine until the summer. The Heat front office is working the phones, frantically exploring third and fourth team scenarios to sweeten the pot. More teams mean more chaos, but also more creativity. Miami is trying to flip assets through intermediaries, laundering players into picks to satisfy Milwaukee's greed. They could reroute massive contracts. They could construct a Frankenstein monster of a deal that gives the Bucks their future without forcing Miami to gut their soul. The rumor mill is spinning out of control. We are talking real-time hysteria, sightings of Giannis touching down at Miami International Airport, whispers of a three-team deal being inked in blood. Rumors spread like a virus during trade deadline week. The tension is thick enough to choke on. Not every whisper is true, but where there is this much smoke, there is a blazing fire burning underneath the speculation. But then comes the twist. Some reports claim the Bucks told Miami to get lost, that they aren't even in the sweepstakes anymore. It is a flood of contradictions. One source screams Miami is in the lead. Another says they are dead in the water. The truth? It's likely hiding in the shadows. Milwaukee is keeping everyone at the table, playing these teams against each other to drive the price to the stratosphere. That is classic negotiation warfare, create confusion by design. CBS Sports is arguing that Miami is still the destiny, beating out the veteran-heavy desperation of New York. The Knicks have thrown their hat in the ring. The Warriors are lurking. The Timberwolves are hunting. Every package has a fatal flaw. Miami's strength is the lethal combination of young blood and that undeniable Heat culture. Their weakness? They are bringing a knife to a gunfight when it comes to draft picks. And Giannis? He walked up to the mic and dropped a quote that left the door wide open. He said he wants to be a Buck for life, but only if life means winning championships. Read between the lines. He wants to stay, but only if staying means rings. If Milwaukee can't deliver the hardware, Giannis is gone. And let's be real, the Bucks cannot deliver a championship with this roster. The math is simple. Therefore, Giannis is leaving. The logic cuts like a knife. That interpretation slices right through the PR diplomacy. The man wants out. He just wants the franchise to pull the trigger first so history remembers him as the loyal soldier who was traded away. He gave Milwaukee his blood. He delivered them the banner. Now, the organization has to set him free to hunt for more. This is the superstar exit blueprint, the Durant contingency. Forget everything you know about a safety net because calling Ja Morant a backup plan for Miami isn't just an understatement, it is an insult to the game itself. We are talking about a two-time All-Star who defies physics every time he touches the paint, bringing a level of explosive athleticism and highlight reel dominance that maybe 5 other guys on the planet possess. But right now, he is radioactive. His stock hasn't just dipped, it has fallen off a cliff. And the deafening noise from his off-court controversies has terrified front offices from coast to coast. A nightmare season has the vultures circling, questioning if his career is already spiraling, but for the Miami Heat, Chaos is a ladder, especially watching the Memphis Grizzlies torch their own roster to the ground. Sending Jaren Jackson Jr. to Utah wasn't just a trade. It was a total, unconditional surrender that signaled the end of an era in Memphis. Winning is no longer on the menu for the Grizzlies. They are in the business of losing games and hoarding assets, banking everything on a tomorrow that feels light years away. And that is the problem. Morant doesn't have time for a 5-year plan. He is in his prime, starving for rings, while Memphis is just trying to stack draft capital. Here is the cold, hard truth. The Grizzlies do not care about Ja's feelings, and they are certainly not interested in holding his hand or shipping him to his dream destination. They will ship him to the highest bidder, even if it is basketball exile. His wish list for Miami or Minnesota means absolutely nothing to the suits in that front office. In a league where stars usually hold the cards, Memphis is flipping the script. This is ruthlessly about assets over accommodation. But Pat Riley and the Heat? They have been watching and waiting for months, viewing that legendary Heat culture as the ultimate cleansing fire for Morant's damaged reputation. This franchise has a history of taking broken toys and turning them into lethal weapons, rehabilitating talented but troubled stars into championship contributors. The organization is convinced they can tame the storm, seeing not just a player, but a superstar who is desperate for structure. They see untaped, world-shaking upside. They see a generational talent who just needs the right sergeant to fall in line and thrive. But here is the catch. Miami isn't paying full retail. They are refusing to mortgage the farm, hunting for a bargain bin steal similar to the Trae Young heist, aiming for a low-cost acquisition. The Heat want him for pennies on the dollar, and they are using his shattered market value as the ultimate leverage in these negotiations. The gamble is that Memphis will blink first because the phone isn't ringing, but the contract situation adds a whole layer of complexity to this high-stakes chess match. Morant is handcuffed. He cannot force his way out like a guy on an expiring deal because with 2 years left on the ledger, the Grizzlies hold all the power. They can let him rot on the bench past the deadline, wait for the summer, or stare Miami down and demand a king's ransom that just isn't there yet. The market value isn't just low. It is described as shockingly non-existent, with the controversies acting like an anchor dragging his reputation to the bottom of the ocean. On the court, he has been inconsistent. And that erratic play this season has GMs wondering if the magic is gone. Teams are paralyzed by the fear of whether they are trading for the all-star or the liability, and that uncertainty is killing the bidding war across the league. Miami's potential package? It is essentially scrap metal centering on expiring contracts like Rozier and Fontecchio with almost zero draft capital attached. The Heat refuse to gut their future for a reclamation project. They view this strictly as a buy low operation with minimal risk. The moment they overpay, the victory evaporates, because the entire allure of this deal relies on getting a Ferrari for the price of a Honda. But if the Giannis Antetokounmpo talks hit a wall, Miami could pivot with ferocious aggression, potentially aiming for a double acquisition shocker without sacrificing Bam Adebayo or Norman Powell. It is the absolute dream scenario where Miami lands both superstars, keeps the core intact, and instantly terrifies the rest of the NBA. If they pull this off, Miami doesn't just improve, they emerge from the deadline as the undisputed monsters of the Eastern Conference. That Jaren Jackson Jr. deal changed the physics of the market, opening new doors for Memphis to weaponize their cap space. That flexibility flips the script on the Morant equation, because Memphis can now eat bad contracts if teams are willing to attach the draft picks they crave. This creates volatile new trade scenarios that didn't exist yesterday, adding a wild card to the final hours of the deadline. It is pouring gasoline on the fire, with reports of internal discussions heating up and Morant's camp pushing hard for South Beach while social media melts down. Insiders are dropping breadcrumbs, the aggregators are screaming, and the rumor mill is spinning out of control. The sheer volume of chatter confirms one thing. These aren't just fantasies. Real heavy conversations are happening behind closed doors. But hold on, ESPN is throwing cold water on the hype, claiming a Heat pursuit is highly unlikely because of their obsession with preserving cap space for 2028. The front office is playing 4D chess with the salary cap, and bringing in Morant's max contract could blow up their master plan for the future. It is a brutal balancing act between winning now and surviving later. But then, a bombshell drops. Reports surfaced that Morant just closed on a house in Miami. The fan base went nuclear, seizing on that detail as the smoking gun that a deal is already done. Real estate isn't a trade demand, but come on, the timing is incredibly suspicious. Why drop millions in Miami days before the deadline if you don't know something? Yet, The Grizzlies are stone-faced, maintaining leverage despite the preferences of their disgruntled star. They control the timeline. They have absolutely zero pressure to pull the trigger right now and can sit back and watch Miami sweat. If the offer stinks, they keep Morant and revisit the market in the summer when half the league has cap space to burn. Miami is walking a razor's edge. The Heat want the star, but they won't be held hostage. To them, he is the consolation prize if the Greek freak doesn't show up, and they are betting his value stays in the gutter. They are betting everything that Memphis will eventually fold, and whether that gamble pays off will decide if we see Morant in a Heat jersey before the season ends. Now, it all comes down to the financial gymnastics required to make the impossible happen. Landing 2 superstars without giving up your own cornerstones? That is not just ambitious, folks. That is rewriting the laws of physics in the NBA. It requires a level of front office sorcery that pushes the salary cap to its absolute breaking point. Miami is cooking up something dangerous here. We are looking at a blueprint built on expiring deals, young blood, and massive multi-team chaos. But here is the catch. The math has to be perfect. The collective bargaining agreement is a minefield, and one wrong step blows the whole operation up. Rival GMs have to sign off. Every tumbler in the lock has to click into place for this South Beach fantasy to become real life. Here is the line in the sand. The Heat are drawing a circle around Bam Adebayo and his $52 million tag, and they are refusing to let go of Norman Powell. Powell is putting up 21.8 a night. He is playing like a man possessed. Miami sees him and Bam not just as assets, but as the untouchable soul of this franchise. You keep Bam for that suffocating, world-class defense and playmaking at the 5. You keep Powell for that veteran swagger and scoring punch. They are non-negotiable. Now, imagine dropping Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant into that mix. You are not just building a team, you are building a war machine designed to rip the title away from anyone standing in their way. But how do you pay for a super team? You start moving the heavy contracts. Terry Rozier is the first domino in expiring deal that matches the money and greases the wheels of the trade machine. Then there is the Andrew Wiggins wild card, a $30 million, $200,000 player option that Miami somehow holds the keys to in this insane scenario. Throw in Simone Fontecchio to balance the scales. Every dollar has to be accounted for. These aren't just players anymore. They are financial lifelines. Expiring contracts are gold dust for teams looking to hit the reset button, and Miami knows it. Let's talk about the offer for the Greek freak. We are hearing names like Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic, plus 2 first-rounders and 3 swaps. Miami is basically emptying the clip, sending their entire future out the door. Tyler Herro is the headliner here. The guy is a walking bucket, a 2-time 6th Man of the Year contender who can light up the scoreboard. He is the prize. Ware brings that raw athletic potential in the paint. Jaquez, he is that gritty, versatile wing every contender needs. And Jovic gives you that modern point forward depth. It is a massive haul of young talent, but is it enough? Sure. It is a boatload of potential and picks. If Giannis walks into the front office and demands a ticket to South Beach, Milwaukee might just have to swallow that pill. But here is the question that keeps Pat Riley up at night. Why would the Bucks pull the trigger if they don't have to? This is the heart of the conflict. Milwaukee is sitting pretty with all the leverage. The deadline is just an artificial pressure point. They don't have to blink. They can drag this out until the summer, let a bidding war erupt, and squeeze every last drop of value out of their superstar. They can wait for a God offer. Miami has to make them believe that times package, right here, right now, is the best thing they are ever going to see. They have to sell the fear of missing out. If the deal goes through, you might see Giannis Antetokounmpo thrown in just to make the salaries legal. But look at the resulting lineup. Davion Mitchell, Powell, Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam. That is terrifying. On paper, Giannis and Bam sharing a front court, that is a defensive wall that no one in the league is penetrating. It is absolute lockdown mode. You have Powell stretching the floor, Mitchell hounding ball handlers, and Wiggins filling in the gaps. It is a Frankenstein monster of a lineup, but it could work. Now, pivot to the Ja Morant saga. The offer there, it is shockingly light. We are talking bargain bin prices compared to the Giannis deal. Miami is looking at packaging the Rozier and Fontecchio expirings with barely any draft capital attached. They are gambling that Memphis takes pennies on the dollar because nobody else wants to touch the situation. It is a ruthless play. They are exploiting Morant's plummeting stock, betting on his talent while the rest of the league is scared off by the baggage. They are banking on the Grizzlies being desperate to clear the decks and just stack assets for a total teardown rebuild. It is predatory and it is smart, but it gets messier. You bring in a third team, maybe a fourth. You flip Wiggins for more picks to sweeten the pot for Giannis. You try to dodge the tax apron while filling the bench with warm bodies. Third and fourth teams are the grease in the gears. A team with cap space eats a bad contract for a pick. Everyone gets a slice of the pie. Maybe a team wants a specific vet and sends a future asset to make the math work. The complexity is off the charts. Every new team adds another layer of chaos. We are projecting a combined payroll next season of $155,200,000. That number is astronomical. It shatters every luxury tax threshold in existence. Miami would be staring down the barrel of unprecedented financial penalties, and the repeater tax? That is the killer. It compounds the pain for years. Owner Mickey Arison has to sign a check that would make most billionaires choke. This isn't a one-year rental. This is a mortgage on the franchise's future. The financial handcuffs would be locked on tight for years to come. But look at the upside. You pair this core with Giannis dropping 28 a game and grabbing 10 boards. You are building a dynasty overnight. You have Ja Morant, one of the most electric guards on the planet, running the show with Bam anchoring the defense. That is a legitimate, undeniable title contender. The East is wide open for the taking. No one has claimed the throne. A Heat team with this much firepower immediately becomes the scariest shark in the water. But the risks, they are catastrophic. You are gutting your depth. You are burning your future draft picks. You are walking a tightrope with no safety net, one bad landing, one twisted ankle, and it is over. The Heat would have zero backup plan, no bench, no pivot, just ruins. If this core doesn't click, if egos clash, if Giannis or Ja walk in free agency, Miami is left with a scorched earth and nothing to show for it. But this is Pat Riley we are talking about, the godfather of the NBA. He has been in the trenches. He has built empires out of thin air before. He lives for these moments. He pushes the envelope until it rips. He takes the risks that make other executives tremble in their suits. That reputation matters. When Riley calls, people listen. The league knows that if there is a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat, he is the one holding the wand. But even if the trade happens, the work isn't done. The roster would be a skeleton crew. Who is filling out the rotation? You are scraping the bottom of the barrel for buyouts. You are praying veterans like Myron Gardner will play for peanuts just for a shot at a ring. It is championship or bust, baby. When you are capped out and gasping for air, the buyout market becomes your only lifeline. But let's be real, it is a graveyard of desperate hopes. You are diving into a bargain bin praying for a miracle, but most of the time, you are just grabbing fool's gold. Sure, you might catch lightning in a bottle with a guy who hits one big shot in May, but 9 times out of 10, these guys vanish when the playoff lights get bright. And the money? Trying to land 2 superstars at once isn't just aggressive. It is financial suicide. We are talking about cap gymnastics that would break a mathematician's brain. The skeptics are already circling like vultures, loud and clear, calling this absolute fantasy land. They say this is just the annual South Beach smokescreen, another year of heat culture hype that has zero chance of actually surviving in the real world. Every single deadline, like clockwork, Miami is in the mix. Riley's lurking, they whisper, but how often does the trigger actually get pulled? There is a massive gaping canyon between the rumors on Twitter and the ink actually drying on a contract. Is this just more noise? But then you have the true believers, the ones who know better than to bet against the Godfather. You look at Pat Riley, and you see a man who eats impossible for breakfast. History tells us one thing. If there is a will, Riley finds the way. Have we forgotten 2010? He didn't just get LeBron James. He didn't just get Chris Bosh. He completely rewrote the rulebook while the rest of the league was sleeping. He navigated cap hell and came out with a dynasty. That is the pedigree we are dealing with here. You want to bet against Pat Riley? Go ahead. But look at the tombstones of the critics who tried that before. It is a foolish wager. When the chips are down and the pressure is on, Riley is the one holding the aces. But let's pump the brakes and look at the wall standing in their way. This isn't a walk in the park. It is a climb up Everest without oxygen. There are massive concrete barriers blocking Miami from pulling off this double-barreled heist. You've got sharks in the water circling for Giannis, ready to outbid Miami with a war chest of assets. And Memphis, they are digging in their heels on Ja Morant. They aren't just going to hand him over. They are going to drag this fight deep into the 11th hour, maybe even past the buzzer. The bank account is practically frozen. Miami is handcuffed by the apron, and you better believe rival executives are on the phone right now, conspiring to block any deal that makes the Heat a superpower again. Nobody wants to see a monster rise in the East. Bobby, look me in the eye and tell me this. If Golden State and Milwaukee actually sit down to make history right now, if the Bucks are going to pull the trigger on a blockbuster, does Draymond Green have to be the sacrificial lamb? Absolutely. There is no other way around it unless you're talking about throwing Jimmy Butler into the volcano, and we know that is not happening. People try to make the CBA sound like rocket science, but this is simple arithmetic. It is cold, hard math. Draymond is sitting there making nearly $26 million. That is the money that makes the machine work. Do not forget the shackles they are wearing. This is a second apron team we are talking about. They are paralyzed. They cannot take back a single dime more than they send out. The margin for error is absolutely zero. And here comes the Golden State Warriors storming the gates as the number one threat to steal Giannis away. They are the heavyweight contender in this fight, and they are swinging for the fences. Look at the war chest. They can put Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody on the table. But the real kicker? 4 first-round picks. We are talking 2026, 2028, 2030, and 2032. That is a mortgage on the future. Those aren't just picks. Those are golden tickets. Unprotected. Think about it. By the time those picks convey, the Curry era is dust. Golden State could be bottom feeders. Milwaukee would be sitting on lottery gold mines while the Warriors burn. I asked him point blank, Draymond, how do you handle the pressure? What if you are still wearing that jersey on Thursday? And he just looks at me, cool as ice, and says, God's plan. God's plan. Can you believe that composure? Draymond Green is staring down the barrel of a trade that changes his life, and he is ready to accept fate. He is unfazed. But Jonathan Kuminga? He is packing his bags. He would walk to Milwaukee if he had to. The writing is on the wall, folks. The Warriors aren't hiding their cards anymore. They are all in. They want the Greek freak, and they want him now. They are willing to torch the roster, burn the assets, and mortgage the house to get him in a Warriors uniform. It is total commitment. The Steph Curry clock is ticking. Tick-tock. Maybe 2 years left of elite greatness. You do not waste that. You go get a monster who can dominate the floor and rip the league apart to get Steph ring number 5. But wait, from the frozen north, here come the Timberwolves crashing the party. They have entered the Giannis sweepstakes, and they are not playing for second place. Minnesota is armed and dangerous. They've got the young guns and the draft capital to make noise. Now, Anthony Edwards, he is the crown jewel, untouchable. Don't even ask. But everyone else, they are on the chopping block. Imagine the terror! Giannis Antetokounmpo paired with Anthony Edwards. We are talking about a duo that would terrorize the NBA for the next decade. It is a dynasty waiting to be born. Now bring it back to Miami. Being in the East is a double-edged sword, but let's be honest, the road to the finals is paved a lot smoother on this side of the Mississippi. Sure, you've got Cleveland, you've got Boston, you've got the Knicks barking loud, but are they unbeatable? No. They are speed bumps for a team with true championship DNA. But here is the brutal truth. Miami is bringing a knife to a gunfight when you look at the assets. The Western Conference teams are throwing around packages that make Miami's offer look like pocket change. And don't sleep on the Knicks. They are lurking in the shadows with veteran-heavy offers and a vault full of picks. New York is hungry, and they have the ammo to strike. They have the talent, they have the contracts, and they have the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, the brightest lights in the world. You think a superstar doesn't want that spotlight? It is the ultimate stage. If Miami stumbles, if Riley's package doesn't move the needle, New York is ready to swoop in and steal the prize. They are the dark horse that could ruin everything for the Heat. The clock is the enemy. Tick-tock! Every second that passes, the pressure mounts. You can't just throw these deals together on a napkin. This is complex machinery. You have armies of lawyers scrutinizing every comma, medical records flying across the country. The salary math has to be perfect down to the dollar or the league office shuts it down. It is a logistical nightmare. And if you bring in a third team, a fourth team, forget about it. The chaos multiplies. It becomes a house of cards waiting to collapse at the slightest breeze. Now, has Giannis slammed his fist on the table and demanded out? No. But he has sent the signal. He has let the world know he is ready for the next chapter. The alarm bells are ringing. He is hinting that the end is near, but he hasn't dropped the nuclear option yet. He hasn't forced Milwaukee to their knees. And that gives the Bucks power. They can drag their feet. Milwaukee doesn't have to panic. They can wait for the summer sun. They can squeeze every ounce of value out of this trade by playing the long game. They hold the cards. But what if disaster strikes? What if Miami swings and misses on both targets? They might have to pivot to the bargain bin or, heaven forbid, stand pat. They built some flexibility with Powell. But is that enough? They could just run it back, rely on the zombie heat to scare the East again, maybe make a tiny tweak here or there, but giving up on the superstar chase? That is a tough pill to swallow. It is the safe play, sure, but safe doesn't win championships. Safe is boring. The fans don't want security. They want a parade down Biscayne Boulevard. But never underestimate the allure of Heat culture. This is the rehabilitation center for stars. Ja Morant needs structure. Miami is the boot camp. Players know if you go there, you get pushed to the absolute limit. It is about accountability. No excuses. They strip you down and build you back up into a warrior. It is the ultimate environment for maximizing talent. And that gritty reputation calls out to the real dogs. The guys who want to bleed for a win, not just cash a check. That is Miami's trump card. But passion doesn't pay the bills. The cold, hard steel of the salary cap could derail everything. The CBA is a merciless beast, and no amount of creativity can break those ironclad chains. The second apron is the Grim Reaper of trades. The restrictions are severe, the handcuffs are tight, and the matching rules are a nightmare. You can't just wish a blockbuster into existence. You have to survive the math. Listen, the math has to align perfectly, but the tension, it is off the charts. The rules are the only thing holding back total chaos. In deadline week, the ground isn't just shifting, it is quaking beneath our feet. Every single hour brings a new bomb. Intel leaks, offers get shredded, and general managers are sweating bullets in war rooms. A deal that looks locked in at 12 p.m., by dinner time, it is dead in the water. Total anarchy. We are talking about miracles and disasters happening in the blink of an eye. Scenarios that look absolutely impossible at breakfast become headline news by the stroke of midnight. When you have heavy hitters like Windhorst and Shams putting Miami right in the crosshairs for Giannis, you listen. But here is the twist that has everyone screaming, the dual acquisition. It sounds like a long shot, sure, but if they pull this trigger, it doesn't just change the game, it breaks the entire league in half. You have to respect the sheer audacity of it, the arrogance, the guts. Most teams are playing checkers while Miami is trying to rewrite the rulebook of chess. Who else even dares to dream this big? We are talking about snatching two legitimate superstars without gutting the roster. Trying to keep the core intact while adding Ferraris to the garage? That is unheard of. This is classic Miami Heat culture. They do not rebuild, they reload. They look at the impossible and laugh. It is this supreme confidence, this belief that they can will a championship dynasty into existence just by snapping their fingers. They believe they own the league. The clock is ticking down, and these next few days are going to be historical. We are about to find out if this is just a fever dream or the start of a new empire. It is all or nothing. Either Pat Riley pulls a rabbit out of the hat and executes the most shocking heist in the history of the NBA, or they strike out swinging and go home empty-handed. There is no middle ground here. That razor-thin line between glory and disaster, that is the juice. That is the tension that makes Deadline Day the most addicting reality show on television. The unknown is terrifying. So I need you to really picture this nightmare scenario for the rest of the league. If Miami somehow lands the Greek Freak and Ja Morant and they keep Bam Adebayo, are you kidding me? Is the season over? Does that instantly destroy the competitive balance of basketball forever? I want to hear from you right now. Is this a genius move or a delusional fantasy? Sound off in the comments and let the debate begin. And do not go anywhere. The drama does not stop here. Click that video on your screen for more exclusive updates you cannot afford to miss.